All right, good evening. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2019. Welcome to the Sweet Talk. My name is Kim Matina, and I am a technology teacher and a Google certified trainer. And today I am so excited to have on the show Mr. Eric Curts. I don't think he needs an introduction, but he will introduce himself. I'm just so happy he's on. He actually took the time to be on my show. Eric, you are like my mentor, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on my show. Thank you
It's
so
my
much.
pleasure to be here.
So, Eric, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure thing, absolutely. So, hi, my name's Eric. I'm from Ohio, Northeast Ohio, Akron, Canton area, like south of Cleveland. This is my 28th year in education. I started off as a middle school math teacher, taught math for 7 years before switching over to a role as like a tech coach or a tech integration person for that same district, and continued to do that for quite a few years until just recently, the last 5 or 6 years, I moved to the county office. So, I'm still doing the same role, still as a tech coach, a tech integration person, but now I serve not just that one district, but now about 35 districts up here in Northeast Ohio as a support to them to help them use technology in their classroom with a focus on the Google suite of tools. In addition to my day job doing that, I do run the blog controlaltachieve.com, and that's where I share all my stuff, all my ideas on how to creatively use technology in your classroom. I do put videos up there, webinars. There's a podcast that goes along with it, and lots of templates and blog posts and help guides and things like that. So that's controlaltachieve.com, and that's where you can find all of my stuff. Other than that, the big news is I'm a grandpa times two now recently. I've got
Yay,
my
congratulations.
grandson is 2 years old, but just had a granddaughter a few months ago. And so if I'm not doing technology, I'm playing with my grandkids, and they just moved a little bit closer. They were about 25 minutes away from me, and my daughter and her husband were able to buy a house in the same town that I live in, so they're about 10 minutes away from me now. So
Oh, that's awesome.
even better.
Yeah,
Yes.
see the big smile and the
Oh,
spark on your face comes
oh,
out when you talk about your grandkids. That's
oh,
awesome.
they are the best.
Yeah,
Woo, man.
that's great. Good for you. Good for you.
Thanks.
Enjoy it.
Thanks.
I'm not there yet, but when I'm
It's
there,
it'll
I
be
will probably
wonderful when you
will be
get there.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, today, Eric's going to be talking about digital well-being and how we balance technology and our life. So we're going to be talking about this in a few different perspectives. One will be like your personal perspective as an educator and how we can help students balance technology and digital well-being and try to promote mindfulness and knowing when to disconnect and knowing when it's healthy or not. So I think Eric has a blog post about this, but he's going to go over a lot of this and different techniques on how we can be a little bit more conscientious of it, because he's the first one to be on the show to talk about this. So I think it's important, and you know everyone in education, whether you're an administrator or a teacher or a bus driver or a teacher's aide, we're all under a lot of time constraints and we're all stressed to some extent, and especially the students. So if people are stressed at the top, it's going to come down, and we want to be able to handle that and balance. And I think Eric's blog about this topic has a lot of great features and options that you can pick from that will work with what you're with your life. So why don't you go ahead and take it
Sure.
away?
Absolutely. So the post that we're referring to is at controlaltachieve.com/well-being, all one word, well-being. If you go to controlaltachieve.com/well-being, it'll direct you to that blog post. And yeah, this is sort of a different topic than I normally talk about. Usually, I'm chatting about fun, creative ways to use slides that you didn't think of or something like that. It's all about using technology in awesome, fun, creative ways. And that is definitely what I'm passionate about and I love. But this is sort of that balance to that, because over the last few years, this has been something I've been working on in my life, that I found myself burning out, to be honest, just doing so much work with technology, because And it's justifiable. You're like, oh, but I'm doing a good thing. I'm sharing educational resources, and I'm retweeting things, and I'm checking Facebook, and I'm putting a post up, and I'm doing a podcast, and it's all good things. I mean, it wasn't that I was being wasteful. I could justify all those things. But let's face it, there's no end to it. If you go on Twitter, there is no end to the tweets. And if you scroll on Facebook, there is no bottom. It never stops scrolling. There's always more stuff out there. There's always another podcast. There's always another blog post. There's always another email message out there. And I realized that for myself, I felt my life was out of balance. And I can't speak for anybody else. I think we all have to find out what's right for us, but I felt like I wasn't incorporating other things into my life in a balanced manner. That the amount of time I was spending on technology was consuming a lot of my life. And so I said, okay, I'm going to intentionally step back a little bit, not do quite as many blog posts, not do quite as many, tweets and so forth. And I'm going to try to incorporate some other things into my life, some of which are not even technology related. I'm going to go for a jog. I'm going to play with the grandkids. I'm going to try to find that balance to recharge and to re-energize and to take care of my wellness all around. And so in that process, I've been keeping an eye out for this topic. And boy, I tell you, I didn't have to look far. It is a topic that is popping up an awful lot. And Google even has a website specifically dedicated to this. So one of the first things I'm going to mention, if you do head to the blog post, I'm not going to go in chronological order here down through the post. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'm actually going to start with, and tell you what, I will go ahead and share my screen. I know some people are going to be watching this through videos, so you'll benefit from this. Some that are just listening through audio would not, but I'll do my best to describe it for you guys. So this is the blog post. I went ahead and pulled that up, the Digital Wellbeing blog post. And I broke it into two main sections. The first section is ways we can use technology to help reduce the potential negatives of technology, things we can do to monitor our usage or reduce notifications and things like that. And then the second half of the blog post gets into more of the, instead of reducing the negatives, more like what can we do to increase the positive benefits of technology. But in the first section underneath, what can we do to kind of get a handle on the potential negatives, there's a section here I'm going to start with that's about online training, because Google has a website which is at wellbeing.google. Simple as that. Very simple address, just wellbeing.google. That is the address. No .com or anything like that on the end of it. And this is a site Google's put together to try to pull into one place a lot of different resources of how Google tools and other technology tools can be used to help us find this balance in our life. For our, are we, spending the time that we are happy with on technology and the other things that are important to us. And so they've got a bunch of different sections here on tools that you can use, as well as some quizzes you can take to kind of evaluate your own use of technology, and just some great videos where people just talk frankly and honestly about some of the struggles they have with technology use in their own life. And so this is a good launching place. I would encourage you to start there at wellbeing.google. But on that same topic of, I just want to learn more about this sort of topic, there are a couple other online training options from Google, and one is through their applied digital skills curriculum. Now, this is something that a lot of people, I think, are getting more familiar with, and if not, you got to check out applied digital skills. So applied digital skills is Google's totally free online curriculum that covers a wide range of technology skills, job skills, life skills for upper elementary through high school, even into adult learners. It covers a lot of stuff like, how do you make a resume, and how do you search for a college, and how do you work well in a collaborative assignment with others. But one of the units they released recently was on building healthy digital habits. Now, so this might be especially good for students. If you follow that link, it'll take you out to that page of the curriculum on building healthy digital habits. This is a pretty big unit. If you did the whole thing from start to finish, they estimate about 6 to 9 hours for this. Keep in mind, though, with all of the applied digital skills content, you can just take bits and pieces from it. You can say, oh, we're just going to do this lesson, we're just going to do these activities, and you can pull things out of there to use with your students. But this is basically a lesson that students can go through that talks them through doing doing things like monitoring their usage and reflecting on how they use technology in their own life, and then coming up with ideas for how they can have a better balance between technology and other things in their life. It's just a well put together lesson. There's videos. If you're not familiar with applied digital skills, it's all created for you. You don't have to make anything up here. The videos are all here. The activities are here. The lesson plans and the whole shebang. It's all put together. And so that would be one that you could certainly use with your students on this topic. And then Google does have one other similar type of a website. It's called their Digital Garage. This one's a little bit more for adults, even though Applied Digital Skills does apply there as well. They do have a very short course at their Digital Garage on digital well-being, which can just, again, be a good way to get you started thinking about these things, asking yourself some questions, and reflecting upon your usage of technology. So between the Digital Wellbeing site, the Applied Digital Skills site, and their Digital Garage site, those can be some places to start that conversation and start digging into these things. Now, what can come?
And
Oh,
you
go
had
ahead, please.
mentioned, Eric, that you would recommend those for students, right?
I would definitely recommend the one, the Applied Digital Skills one, because that is really designed for students. Now, Applied Digital Skills can also apply to adults. They definitely have units in there that are more for adult learners. This one is geared for middle school and high school. That is the focus of this particular one. I think you could probably go a little lower and a little higher with it if need be, but it is the sweet spot that they've aimed at for this is middle school and high school learners, which is true for a lot of the applied digital skills content. The other resources I mentioned, just the wellbeing.google site, that is not age dependent. Anybody could benefit from that. But the third one I mentioned, the Digital Garage one, that's a little bit more geared toward adults.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That's good to know. Yeah, I didn't know that applied digital skills had a well-being
They add new
that
stuff all
curriculum.
the time
Yeah,
for that. You
it's
blink and
crazy.
there's a new lesson on there.
Yeah.
This is one of the more recent lessons that they've added
Okay.
in
That's
there.
good to know, honestly, because I think that would be something that would be very helpful in a like a technology literacy class or even
Yes.
ELA.
Yes.
So that's good to know. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Absolutely. And so some of the things that you might pick up from going through these sort of resources include some of the other things I've thrown into this blog post. And some of those include things like monitoring your usage. Just, what do you do? How do you keep an eye on how much technology you use? Because I'm sure if we were asked, well, how many minutes a day or how many hours a day do you believe you use Twitter, Facebook, this, that, we might estimate, but would we be accurate? And so there's a lot of great tools that can help us kind of keep an eye on our technology usage. Since we are mostly focusing on Google things here today, I'll certainly mention that Google is baking a lot of this into Android. Now, at the moment, it's more of the more modern Android version. So if you've got a phone that hasn't upgraded yet, or maybe isn't going to get an upgrade, you may not have all of these features. But over time, we're going to see them spreading wider and wider, and as more phones upgrade. But Google has a digital well-being app built into Android that does a lot of things that you can do on other systems as well. If you are on iOS, there's the Screen Time app as well. And if you're on an older version of Android saying, I'd love to get this digital well-being monitoring stuff, well, I use mine. Actually, my phone does not have the latest version of Android. My phone's
Shame
a
on
few
you.
a few years old. It's great. I love it. Still working. So it still works. So I've not upgraded yet. So I use Action Dash, which works fine on older versions of Android and does a lot of the same thing. The point is, whether it's iOS, whether it's new Android, older Android, most of these apps, what they do is they monitor your usage so you can get reports. You can see how much time do I actually use in different, apps. You can also set timers, like limits. Say, you know what? If I am on my phone more than so many minutes a day or hours a day or on this app for so long, warn me or shut it off or whatever. And then a lot of them have like something that's typically called a focus mode or something along those lines, where you can tell it, hey, I need to, for the next half hour, I need to focus. And it will like block distracting apps or notifications during that time. So those tend to be, they may be called different things in different on different OSs, but having something like that is helpful. And so I use Action Dash, and it tells me every day, hey, in the morning it pops and says, this is what happened yesterday. Here's your stats from yesterday. You were, down or up, or, and it just helps me at least keep my finger on the pulse of how much technology I'm using.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a modern phone. I
Rub
have
it
a
in.
I have a Pixel 2 XL
Oh
phone,
my.
Eric. And one of the things that I went from an older Samsung to the Pixel,
Yeah.
and I didn't have the Digital Wellbeing app on that Samsung phone. So when I got the Pixel, I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" Because I am able to set, like you had said, like I can set timers on specific apps. So I have timers on all my apps on my phone, particularly the social media ones like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, for like maybe 35 minutes a day, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then like it gives me a warning. So 5 minutes before my time's about to expire, it'll come up and it'll say you have 5 minutes left. And if I exceed the time, or if I go to the time limit and I expire my minutes, the app actually, like just say it's Facebook, the app actually turns gray. So it's disabled. So I can't even go into it. So I would have to actually go into my Pixel settings and actually revise the timer setting for that app, and then either remove it or add more time to it. But I totally love it because I don't feel like I'm a prisoner to my phone. And even like I turned off all my notifications on my phone. I felt like my phone was like taking over my life, and I couldn't. And every time when the phone beeped, I felt like I had to look at it, and I got like not anxiety, but I got like anxious to see who it was, or you know who
Right.
who's no what's going on. So I turned off all my notifications. And another thing that I have on is the wind down mode. So the wind down mode is awesome because it sets your primary day up. So I have it set for mine, like just say it's like at 9 at night to 6 in the morning. It goes into wind down. So like my screen turns like grayscale,
Hmm.
and I'm in do not disturb mode.
Yes.
So do not disturb mode is will only allow notifications from people in my contact list, like
Right.
my family. So if
Right.
they need to text me, the text will still come through.
Yes.
But if I'm getting a text, say from, say from you, it'll
Correct.
block it until it gets out of wind down mode, which is 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, like because I have to leave my phone on at nighttime, I have family,
Sure.
in case they need me.
Absolutely.
And now I don't have to worry about it because I know if somebody is calling me or texting me, it's my family. It's
Right.
not a Twitter notification. So I really love the wind down mode. Like I just feel like I have more. I'm definitely managing my time with my phone. Um, and then what was I going to say? The focus mode. I mean, I just kind of turn off all of my notifications, but the focus mode is something I'd have to look into because
Sure.
you know that if you definitely need a half hour during the day to do something and you're getting notifications or whatnot, that will just totally distract and disable them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that I have to look into that's something new to me. But
Yeah.
totally, I agree. I think it's totally necessary to be aware of these apps, and I think it's important because people are like finding themselves engulfed into it, submerged into it, and they don't know how to handle it and get out of it. So
Right.
these are great resources to look into.
Well, and you think how difficult it is for us as adults. Think about our kids who are just growing up with this. This is just a part of their life, and it's a good discussion to be having with our kids as much as us as adults. I mean, many of us grew up without technology, and we've learned it as we've gone, and maybe we have perspective, and we struggle even
Yeah.
having perspective of remembering what it was like when we didn't have, constant technology access. Our children, they don't know a world where that wasn't the case, and so these are good discussions to have with them as well. I love the fact that you mentioned about the notifications. There's a whole section in here that we talk about. Yes, please do that. Go into your Android or iOS settings, and there's all sorts of levels you can set for those. Do you want to turn notifications off altogether? Not necessarily. Maybe just want to put on things that are more high priority and say, if it's somebody in my contact list, let it come through. But otherwise, not. Same thing with Gmail. You may have seen this popping up recently. It's popped up several times on my phone recently, saying, hey, try out these, this new high priority option in Gmail where you can, instead of getting a buzz every time an email comes through, it'll just be ones that are considered high priority. So, that's one side of the coin, which is trying to use these tools to monitor and help maybe prevent the, potential negative use of technology or the overuse of it. But on the other side, we also want to say, well, hey, let's use technology in a positive sense as well for our well-being. That there's a lot of, things we can say. No, it's not just, hey, let's monitor and limit technology, but let's take advantage of some of the things it provides us. And this is, again,
Right.
just a grab bag of ideas, things as simple as how if you ever are on Google's site and you search for the phrase breathing exercise, it'll bring up a 1 minute breathing exercise to take you through a mindfulness and relaxation, calmness exercise, which might be great in between class changes or might be great for your students as well. Just a neat thing to be aware of. There's also a lot of neat websites and Chrome extensions that will do things like create ambient audio. And so if you wanted to be able to, again, focus and be more mindful, there's a lot of neat tools out there. There's one called Noisely that is a website, but is also a Chrome extension. And it can, as well as many other ones out there, they can, let you pick, waves or a river or a crackling fire and make a nice ambient audio sound for you. Other tips and tricks I throw in the blog post include the idea of using passwords as a positive self-talk tool. We
Isn't that
have
funny how something like that could make you have a different mindset?
Yeah, because I mean
Honestly,
we
something
have to
simple
type
like
in
that.
passwords. We have to type in passwords every day. I mean, where I work at my job, we're on an Active Directory network, and so every 90 days it's set I have to pick a new password to log into my laptop each day. So every day, at least once, I'm logging into my laptop. But chances are, you go to lunch, you do this, that. I'm probably unlocking my laptop, 5 to 10 times a day, and I'm typing in this password. Well, you want a secure password, so a lot of times you hear about using a passphrase rather than just a password. And so about a year ago, I was like, you know what? What if my passphrase is something that I need to hear? What if I make a passphrase that's positive self-talk? And it's something that is maybe something I'm working on in my life right now, that for the next 90 days, I want to remind myself about this over and over and over again. And some days it's critical. Other days it's just like boom, throwing the password. But there's some days where I come into work and it's like, I needed to hear that. That's a message from myself 2 months ago that I needed to hear today to help me continue to work on improving myself or to be more mindful or whatever it might be.
Eric, that is so funny because that's how I make my passwords, my passphrases, my
That's
passwords.
great. Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. I can't believe that that is one thing that you recommend because
Yes.
I feel like let's pick something positive, let's pick something cheery, let's pick something that I love. And then
Yes.
first of all, I'm going to remember it, but it's not just, blah. It means something. It has a
Yes.
meaning to it. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a good way to start your day. Like you're you just said it. I can't believe that little bit right there just it can just definitely start your day, you get your coffee, you log in, you type it in your cheerful password.
You got it.
I mean, it's like how you used to have like post-it notes or inspirational words all around or whatnot.
Absolutely.
That's your inspirational password quote right
That's
there.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I totally agree.
So that is something I've been doing in my life as well, and I would encourage people to try that out. And then a few other just little last minute things I have in that blog post. Google has an extension called Tune, Tune, that deals with potentially toxic comments that you come across online, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and so forth. This is an experimental extension from Google that uses AI and allows you to turn a dial to tune up or down the level of toxicity that is allowed to show on websites. And so maybe this is something that would be great for you, but then again, maybe it's for younger students. Could be a lot of possibilities where you could say, you know what, let's turn this down. And basically what it does is it just goes through like the YouTube comments or the Reddit comments or whatever might be on there, and it will hide things that the AI identifies as toxic. And so we're talking about hate speech. We're talking about things that are abusive, type of comments, and it still lets you know they're there. There's a little dot that takes their place, so you can always click the dot and read it. It's not like, hey, this is censorship, you can't see it. Of course you can. You can choose to expand the comment, but it's just trying to say, what if we just kind of remove some of this stuff? Maybe we don't have to get drawn into that.
It doesn't replace the word. It just hides it.
It completely removes the comment and puts a single dot in its place of the entire comment. And so you can click that and it'll expand that comment back out. But it is not just removing a word, it's removing the entire entry that that particular comment
Oh,
is a part
okay.
of.
Oh, we'll have to check that out.
So that's
Okay.
that's one to be aware of. And then I think our body does affect our mind a lot. And so if you've got a Fitbit or you got a smartwatch, you're probably already doing this. But let's say you don't have one or can't afford one, or it's students but they have a phone. Well, you can definitely get apps such as the Google Fit app. Since again, we're talking a lot of G Suite things here. It's not the only one that does this, but the Google Fit app runs on both Android and iOS. So if you got nothing else, if you don't have a smartwatch or a Fitbit or something, you can throw the Google Fit app on your phone and it will do its best to use your accelerometer on your phone all day long to monitor how much you're moving, because staying healthy, getting up and moving, it affects all our well-being of our mind as well. And so that's something that could just be a motivation for students and for us as adults as well, to just stay moving and stay active as well as part of our overall well-being. And the final thing I have in here, I cannot take credit for, but from a training I attended a few months ago, two of our local awesome presenters here in Northeast Ohio have a wonderful Wakelet link that they've put together with other mindfulness apps and resources. And I do have that linked in at the bottom of that post for additional resources to take advantage of. And again, all of that, controlaltachieve.com/wellbeing. Continue to, add more to it as time goes on, because this is certainly something that I am learning as well as I'm working through this myself.
Yeah, I definitely think it's so important. I'm constantly changing things on how I use technology as well. So I'm glad that first of all, I'm glad to see that actually practicing some of the things that you that you were mentioning. But a lot of the things that you mentioned as far as the apps, I think it's important for students to be aware of it, and for educators, and for just to be aware of it for yourself personally. Like, it's just important, because it's hard to balance technology and life
Mhm.
and our jobs and being a parent and being a grandparent and this and that. So you got to try to, I mean, technology is good for our lives, and it's got its disadvantages as well, but we want to try to use it to be the best and to
Yes,
make it better for our world and make it better for your work, your work flow and your work
absolutely.
environment. So that's the whole point of trying to share all this information, because it's so important. I had someone on Twitter yesterday tweeted something, and she tagged me in it, and she said, how do I say no without feeling bad about about committing to something, and I kind of responded back to her, and I said, honesty is the best policy. If you have to take care of yourself first, so that you can take care of your students and your family, and once you take care of yourself, all that kind of falls into place. And what I did say was it's a balance. So it's okay to say no to
Absolutely.
certain
Well,
things,
and don't yeah, don't forget, if you every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else at the same time.
Right,
You have to. I mean, it's all about choices. And are you saying no to yourself and your own health and your own well-being or your family or other things? And I'm not saying, don't say yes to opportunities. It's think about it before we just say yes to everything. And the same with technology. It's going to be different for everybody. And what's the right balance is what's right for you. And what's right for
right.
you and your family. And it's really, we're just trying to have this discussion to make people just be reflective and take the time to think about it and find something that you feel at peace with and comfortable with.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like with me, and I don't know how you feel about this, within the past probably 2 years, I want to say, because I felt like I was getting burnt out, so I took a step back and I did started the sweet talk, right? So you would think that I would just kind of disconnect, but I used the technology to make something better, and I'm using it, but I still have timers set because I don't want to burn myself out again. And I
Right.
learned my lesson the first time. So now I'm taking a whole different approach to it. I dedicate one day a week to the sweet talk, and the rest of my week is for my full-time job.
Yes.
and and, I do the best I can, and that's it. I mean,
That's right.
you could that's all you could do.
Yes.
So it's fun in the balance that's going to work for you. Everyone's different, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think it's so important. This is definitely a topic that um, is trending, and it continues to trend because it's in our face all the time. And I think it's I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that you showcased your blog and all these different tools. I mean, I just think it's really important. As much as Google is, I love Google as well. And as much as they want you to use their tools and everything, they still want you to be healthy, and they want you to be attentive to how you use
Yes.
technology. And so, they're giving you the tools and the apps and all these little features in the Android part of it to make you aware so that you can be a little bit more self-conscious and take
Yes.
better care of yourself. So it's all good.
Yes, it
All
is.
good. Yes, it is. Well, that wraps up our show tonight. I'm really thankful again for Eric to be on and share his expertise and his knowledge. He's just got so much knowledge that you got to follow him on Twitter. He's always posting his blogs on Twitter, and it's just priceless information. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm getting better at this, Eric. I'm getting better at Zoom.
We're figuring it out, aren't
We're
we?
figuring it out. We have no choice. It's sink or swim.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there. So Eric's blog post is controlaltachieve.com. And that's his blog. And he's got so many resources in here and webinars and podcasts. And you can subscribe to his newsletter as well. And just check it out because he's got so much information in here, not only on, digital well-being, but different apps as well in the G Suite. Um, so Oops, my phone is ringing. Hold on. And it is a spammer. Uh,
Of course.
it's a telemarketer.
How could that? It's
Oh
perfect
my
timing. It's
gosh.
perfect timing.
See that? I
It's
didn't turn it off. Shame
oh, I
on
get so
me.
many of those. It's okay.
So as you were going through your blog, I was going to the websites that you were mentioning
Yeah,
and adding it to the Wakelet collection for the show tonight.
wonderful.
So you can visit my website, thesweettalk.com. That's the SUITE talk.com. And you can actually subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can subscribe to the newsletter. Also, listen on your favorite podcast. I'm on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Google podcasts. But this episode will be on the homepage as well as the episode and podcast list page. You can find all the episodes and show notes here. When it loads, it'll show here. And if you would like to be a guest on my show, you can go back to the homepage and you can see down here. There's a form here. There's a button that you can press, and you can fill out the guest inquiry form, and you can be a guest on my show and showcase anything that you would like to pay it forward to help others. And basically, that's it. So let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Um, and that's really it. That concludes our show for tonight. Like I said, Eric, thanks for being on again. I really
My
appreciate you
pleasure.
taking the time. I know you're a busy fellow, so I appreciate it. Until next time, have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Bye.